Hello everyone! Before we start our lesson today, I want you to prepare your mini board, your markers, and your English books. Now let's start. Family and Friends, Grade 5, Semester 1, Unit 4, The Ancient Egyptians, Lesson 2, Grammar. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify the past simple of regular verbs, affirmative and negative. To use past simple of regular verbs, affirmative and negative accurately, and to write sentences using past simple of regular verbs, affirmative and negative. Now, I want you to read these sentences with me and look at the verbs. She lived in Bahrain for 3 years. I finished my homework yesterday. My sister started writing a story. They hated the comedy film. Look at these verbs again. Lived, finished, started, hated. These verbs are the past simple of regular verbs. Regular verbs are verbs which its past tense versions are formed by adding an ed. Those verbs are the affirmative form of past simple. Now let's start practicing. In this activity, you have to change the following verbs to the past simple. What should you add to the end of the verb? Excellent, you should add ed. You have 5 minutes. You can write your answers on your mini board. Start. Now, click on the yellow boxes to check your answers. Start clicking. Cook became cooked. Very good. Play, played. Excellent. Watch, watched. Excellent. Want, wanted. Very good. Love, loved. Laugh, laughed. And walk, walked. Excellent. In this activity, Tom tells his friend about what he did last week. You have to read and write the missing verbs. You have the verbs here. What should you add to the end of the verb to make it in the past simple tense? Excellent. You should add ed. You have 5 minutes. You can write your answers on your mini board. Start. Now let's check our answers. I spent a great time last week. I did a lot of activities with my family. We watched a comedy film. It was funny. We laughed a lot. The film started at 4:30 and finished at 6:45. At that time, my mom was cooking. She cooked a delicious meal. I really loved it, but the dessert wasn't good. I hated the pancake because of the maple syrup. The day after, I played computer games with my cousins. By the end of the day, I wanted to visit my grandma, but my mom couldn't take me as she was very sick. Were your answers correct? Good job! Now, how can we write sentences using past simple of regular verbs? You should follow the sequence below. Look at this example. She played football. We started the sentence with the subject and then the verb plus ed and finally the object. Let's look at another example. I opened the door. Again, you start with the subject and then the verb plus ed and finally the object. This is how you write sentences correctly using past simple regular verbs. It's your time to write now. You have to look at the pictures and write sentences in the past simple tense. Next to each picture, you have the verb that you should use. What will you add to the end of the verb? I'm sure you know. If you write 4 to 5 words, you earn 1 star. If you write 6 to 7 words, you earn 2 stars. And if you write 8 to 9 words, you earn 3 stars. Before you start writing, I want you to read the writing checklist. You have 5 minutes. You can write your answers on your mini board. Start. Now let's look at some possible answers. Number 1. I loved my grade 1 teacher. She was so kind. Kate finished the homework in class. My mom and I visited my grandma last night. And finally, my little brother walked to school yesterday. How many stars did you get? Good job! Now I want you to read the following sentences with me and look at the verbs. She lived in Bahrain. She didn't live in China. My sister started reading a story. My sister didn't start writing a story. I finished my project. I didn't finish my homework. They hated the horror film. They didn't hate the comedy film. We've learned the affirmative form of past simple. Now we can notice the negative form of past simple. In negative sentences, we don't change the verb. We only add didn't before the verb. Let's look at the sentences again. We say she didn't live in China. We only added didn't before the verb. We didn't change the verb. It's in the base form. Another example. My sister didn't start writing a story. So we added the word didn't before the verb, and the verb is written in the base form. We didn't add anything to the verb. We only add the word didn't before the verb. Now let's start practicing. You have to change the following verbs to negative form of past simple. How can you change it? Yes, you have to write didn't and then the verb in the base form. You have 5 minutes. You can write your answers on your mini board. Start. Now let's start clicking. Visited becomes didn't visit. Lived, didn't live. Used, didn't use. Liked, didn't like. Studied, didn't study. Listened, didn't listen. Were your answers correct? Good job! In this activity, Jude tells her friend about what she did yesterday. You have to read and write the missing verbs in the negative form. You have the verbs written for you. What should you add before the verb to make it in the negative form? Excellent! You should add the word didn't. You have 5 minutes. You can write your answers on your mini board. Start! Now let's check your answers. Yesterday was the National Day of Bahrain. I did a lot of fun activities with my family. We didn't watch a drama film. We watched a comedy film. We didn't stop laughing. It was hilarious. Later, we decided to watch the fireworks. The show started at 9 p.m. and it didn't finish until 10 p.m. For dinner, my dad ordered some food, so my mom didn't cook pasta. I thought of taking some photos of my family, so I didn't use the mobile phone as usual. I used my camera because it's a very special occasion. Were your answers correct? Very good. Now, how can we write sentences using past simple of regular verbs in negative form? You should follow the sequence below. Let's look at the example. She didn't play football. We start the sentence with the subject, then the word didn't, which is the short form of did not, and then the verb in the base form, and finally the object. We have another example. They didn't watch the film. We start with the subject and then did not or didn't, and then the verb in the base form, and finally the object. In this activity, you have to look at the pictures and write sentences in the past simple using both negative and affirmative forms. Next to each picture, you have the verb that you should use. Let's have one example. Look at the first picture. You have the verb watch. You can say, they didn't watch a film. They watched cartoons. Now you have 5 minutes to write your answers on your mini board. Start. Let's look at some possible answers. Look at the second picture. Ali and Reem didn't live in Oman. They lived in Bahrain. Very good. Next. We didn't play football. We played with the toys. Very good. And the last one. He didn't read all the books. He started reading the red book. Did you check all the boxes? Good job. This is the end of our lesson today. Was it easy? I hope so. See you soon.